Hey, so I guess one of the things that might have been people have been wondering about is so I set up all my telescope stuff outside and I just leave it all out there and I'm sitting in here and how that actually happens. Um, what essentially I'm using is a indie server. The indie server sits outside and I connect to it over a home network connection, an Ethernet connection, um, and yeah, it works really well. So the things that connect to uh, that box that sits outside are essentially the focus controller, um, the cameras, the filter wheel, um, the GPS, uh, in order to get accurate time and thing that's only really required right at the beginning of the session, and obviously the mount as well. So there, I connect all those things into a remote computer that sits outside, and then from my desktop, I'm able to control all those things. So the computer that sits outside is this one, and it's something I've built myself. Don't have to go to these lengths, but I'll essentially just put a wooden box around it. I call it the box. Um, so on the outside, what you have exposed here are 7 USB ports, because usually what you'll find is that all the astronomy kit will want to communicate over USB. Just about everything you can get is USB based. We have a GPS receiver that sticks out rather than being in the box. We have a Ethernet connector that sticks out rather than being in a box. That's GPS receiver, and we have a couple of power connectors. So we've got a standard 2.1 millimeter 12 volt power connector, and we've got a USB which requires, as this is based on the Raspberry Pi, Raspberry Pi 3.4, Raspberry Pi 4, yeah, it requires almost 3 amps. And so I have a 3 amp cigarette lighter sort of adapter that plugs into a 12 volt adapter. Inside the box, we have so I'll get that there. So we have the Raspberry Pi, we have the USB hub that goes across there. Down here we've got a SSD, external SSD drive that's connected to a USB 3 cable to the Raspberry Pi. The SSD really does speed up latency that you might experience from using an SD card on the Raspberry Pi. It's well recommended, and obviously the extra capacity should you want to be actually acquiring photos. You'll quite easily, on a full night, you might acquire up to 2 gigabytes of data, and you really don't want to be putting them on SD cards, micro SD cards. It's a lot better to put them on SD cards. So all I've done is just velcroed everything into the box, and enclosed it. I'm sure you can get a lot smaller boxes and similar things such as Stalamate and so on, but sometimes roll your own, and this sits quite nicely underneath the tripod to take photos, and what I'm hoping to do is rather than run K-Stars on my desktop, which I know I do, is to run K-Stars on the wooden box, especially in a dark sky environment away from home. so I don't have to take a laptop or anything like that. I can run this off a battery, hopefully store everything on the SSD, and work with it that way. I think it's well, we will see. This will be borne out in time. But that's my current creation as to how I work when working from home with the with the astronomy stuff, and that's how I keep warm when I'm looking at stars. Okay, thanks for watching.